Welcome to the Debate Corner channel. Feel free to like, comment, and subscribe to stay up to date with future videos. The more comments received, the more videos will be made. Let's get started. I usually have something legitimate to talk about, but today, I figured I'd switch it up a bit and talk about something, or perhaps someone, who is quite the opposite of legitimate. I'm not the only one in the boat that believes that Kamala Harris has grasped for so many straws trying to make herself look as if she's somehow relevant. In fact, the boat I mentioned is probably sinking with the amount of people that is coming aboard. The change in her stemmed from way back when she decided to join those that wanted to remove Biden from office. This entire administration is quite a bit wonky. Half the time we don't even know who is running the country, if anyone is. Biden has called Harris the president on multiple occasions. She's tried to become involved with the war in Lebanon by sending them over $157 million in aid when Israel is actively attacking them and telling the US to get out of there, which makes one question her loyalty, which I'm pretty sure that funding and aiding the terrorists would be considered treason. Now the Biden administration, along with her, have warned Israel that it needed to improve the situation soon in Gaza, or else they would be at risk of violating United States laws. Last I checked, this is Israel's war, and the United States needs to keep their nose out of their business. They struck first, and Israel is taking the situation into their own hands. The current Biden-Harris administration continue to act as if they have a dog in this fight, in which they do not. Then instead of really doing anything to aid the hurricane efforts, she's seen cracking a beer with Stephen Colbert on national television. I feel as if she is trying to become president by winning over the citizens by all the photo opportunities that she presents. Speaking of which, now she is on the cover of Vogue magazine. Seriously, what has she done that is so significant to the passage of time? Maybe they only did that out of pity and wanted to at least give her that, like it was the same as a participation trophy. I could create a Venn diagram of all of her accomplishments over the past almost 4 years, and the diagram would still be as blank as her mind is without a teleprompter. While she talks about what can be, unburdened by what has been, Trump was actively on the ground with the hurricane victims and delivering supplies and using his platform to raise money for them as well. Not sure she realizes this or not, but the United States needs a leader such as him, and not just another someone that is just behind the scenes pretending to be the president just because of the title change. Maybe this is another reason why the Biden administration has attempted to slow him down time and time again, giving him multiple lawsuits in his path to prevent him from doing the very things that they aren't willing to do. While Biden went into hibernation half the time, and the other half of the time being spent at the beach, she was nowhere to be found. The so-called border czar never even went to the border until she decided she would run for president. Sorry, but it's a little too late for that. She should have already been on top of the border instead of assisting in removing Trump's policies that kept the illegal immigrants from entering to begin with. The Biden administration has allowed them to come in and literally just handed them benefits for being here, while Americans are struggling just to have food on tables and in some places struggling to keep their homes from being squatted in. Then you have news spreading lies to cover up the administration's failures. The Trump and Harris debate, Trump spoke on immigrants eating cats and dogs, to which he was ridiculed instantly by Harris and was fact-checked, saying that was untrue. Yet if you do some research, there have been meetings with citizens speaking of this happening to their pets. But the mayor Rob Rue of Springfield, Ohio attempts to overshadow them, along with the help of the media claiming it was all lies. The same happened when Trump mentioned that Aurora, Colorado, was being overrun by Venezuelan gangs. Don't believe me? Feel free to look up the name Cindy Romero. The mayor Mike Kaufman, police chief, and the media still continued to say that Trump is lying about that as well. Yet, if you look past those three mentioned, gangs have indeed taken over an entire apartment complex. So my question to you is, why would the media, police, and even their own mayor downplay the event to its entirety? The answer is simple. It's like going to work at a normal 9 to 5. You come in as just a new hire, start seeing problems within the workplace, and speak up about them. The supervisors don't want to appear as if there are things going wrong in the workplace, and they downplay it to the main boss, making the new hire seem like they have no idea what they are talking about. This, in turn, saves the supervisor from being reprimanded and the boss sides with them, even though there is so much going on behind the scenes. Then the main boss just dismisses you from the workplace without giving you a reason, just to save his own job. Both the supervisor and main boss still appear innocent when they are very much a part of the problem. Everyone in the workplace sides with them and makes you out to be just drama. So in this case, the sheriff and mayor are a part of the problem by dismissing what the citizens are currently going through in their towns. Maybe it's to save their jobs, because they are making their towns look as if they are safe and having the media amplify that message to the United States as a whole, or maybe they don't want the gang to cause them any trouble or harm them in any way. Another thing I don't get is why does Harris suddenly have accents to try and appeal to the black population? Why all of a sudden is she changing her race as well? Has anyone ever heard of the term race baiting? Definition of race baiting is as follows: the unfair use of statements about race to try to influence the actions or attitudes of a particular group of people. Now with that in mind, is that why all of a sudden she also has Barack Hussein Obama being her cheerleader on the campaign trail? Since she isn't actually black, is she sending him to those areas trying to get Obama to persuade them into voting for her? This entire election doesn't depend on certain demographics. In an election, I'm going to say something that is usually frowned upon, so wait for it. It involves the actual fact that we are all equal to one another. That's right, everyone is equal. I don't care what race you are or what gender you are, we can all agree none of us want inflation, high prices on everything from gas, food, housing costs, taxes. I could go on forever. She doesn't get the concept that she shouldn't be just targeting everyone individually. Democrats are great for trying to split us all into individual groups. She doesn't get that she doesn't need to change her race, accent, or have a team of different ethnicities to help her run her campaign to reach everyone individually. Trump is doing what is best for everyone as a whole. This is why it is just him and Vance running her entire election process into the ground. Democrats and their DEI is getting to be way out of hand trying to identify themselves as something they are not, just to appeal to certain crowds. The United States doesn't need that. Many are dropping her party in droves. Multiple unions that have backed Democrats for years have even stepped away from the Democratic nominee. After everything I've said, she even has the gall to go on national TV and say things like, he refuses to release his medical records after she herself took a cognitive test recently. Does she not realize that Biden was and still is not, in any way, shape, or form, cognitive as the current sitting president? She also claims that he is unwilling to do a 60 minutes interview. How many interviews does he have to do? It took her forever to even take one interview while he was out doing rallies. Not to mention, every time they meet in anything, it's always news broadcasters that are always biased against him to the point they have notes on everything, just to make sure to fact-check him while asking her easy questions that she has rehearsed for beforehand. But, when she is out on her own doing interviews for others, she's often spending more time filibustering instead of answering questions. Like if she were to be asked how she plans on reducing inflation, she always has that same old answer she rehearsed of how she grew up as a middle-class kid. None of us care how she was raised when she was younger, but what we care about is how she'd reduce inflation now in today's economy. Then if she's redirected to the question, she always has a blank look on her face as if talking about her life growing up wasn't a good enough answer for the interviewer. So her wanting a second debate against Trump would just be repetitive at this point. Trump would end up being fact-checked, while she wouldn't even give any answers. Instead, she would give us story time. Also, another thing she said publicly, and using her exact question for reference, it makes you wonder, why does his staff want him to hide away? And another quote from the night, one must question, are they afraid that people will see that he is too weak and unstable to lead America? If he was weak, then why did he start a chant of, fight, fight, fight after he was shot, returned back to Butler, Pennsylvania, and continued with, as I was saying, please explain how that is a weakness. That definitely takes the cake of anything she said as of late. When it comes to the border, he pushed illegals back, but yet she caved and let them in freely. No one was in wars when he was in office, but the moment they had seen how weak the leadership was once he was out, there was nothing she could do to stop any of them from happening. When he was busy sending out the famous mean tweets, she was nowhere to be found when she was in office with Biden, unless you count talking to paid child actors about going into space or talking about yellow school buses. While she is only all talk, Trump has Elon Musk backing him that actually sends astronauts to space. While he is the president that goes to Putin face to face, she never has been, but instead she's just off doing Harris things. This election is going to be the difference between night and day. If you enjoy earning money, you'd rather take financial advice from those that have it, rather than ones that intend on using inflation and higher taxes to accumulate your hard-earned money to line their pockets. If you enjoy living in peace, you'd rather go with the one that isn't violating federal laws by aiding and abetting illegals, but instead pushing them out the door back to from which they came. If you enjoy jobs where you enjoy having tip money from your hard work, you'd go with the one that doesn't want to tax it. Before you say that Harris has said she wouldn't tax tips, just remember she said that only after Trump announced he wouldn't tax them. But also remember that when asked if she would have done anything differently in the Biden-Harris administration, she said she wouldn't have changed a thing. If you enjoy knowing that we won't be thrown into some random war brought upon something that the current president has done, just remember, Trump knew how to pull strings where other countries knew it was a bad idea to start one. The Harris campaign is going downhill and fast. She went from confident to becoming an afterthought. She reminds me of someone that was so unpopular in school and tried desperately to fit in with any group of people, yet failed miserably. So back to the drawing board she went. She says that Trump is weak, yet she has the Clintons and Obama trying to salvage what little is left of her campaign. She tries to win over the male voting population by sending Tim Walz on hunting trips, which is rather odd, considering he's claimed he's been to war, yet can't even load a shotgun. Could only imagine him trying to load anything requiring a magazine. Someone needs to tell him that trying to imitate Elmer Fudd is gimmick infringement. As Dwight Schrute might possibly say to him, "Identity theft is not a joke, Tim. Millions of families suffer every year." I think we can all agree that someone needs to keep any firearms out of Tim Walz's hands before we end up having another Dick Cheney incident. All in all, I think Harris was right about one thing, saying that it is time to turn the page. Seeing what has happened to America in 4 years' time, I highly agree with her. It's time to move away from her and the rest of the clowns in that circus. Turn the page, rebuild America to where we were, actually build back better and make America great again. What are your opinions of her? Let us know in the comments below and have a wonderful day.